We are back at our project. We changed PowerShell to Git Bash for diversity. We are in our book folder right now, which we can check by typing pwd in our Git Bash, as you can see on your monitor right now. Let's check our Git status. You can see we have everything updated. We have nothing to commit. So let's create a new file, a chapter 2 file for our book. Let's use a touch command to do so. This command won't work in PowerShell, but it will in Git Bash. We can see our new file has been created in our file explorer. We can also check it in our Git Bash, typing ls, as you can see on your screen. So now let's check our Git status once again. And you can see the effect. Git tells us that we created a new file, which is now untracked. And if we want to track it, we have to add it to the staging area where it can be saved to our repository with the next commit. So as you can know, we can use the command git add chapter 2 txt to add this file to the staging area so we could keep it in our repository by the next commit. But as you know, we can also type git add a like this to add every new file in our working directory in our workspace to the staging area, so that we don't have to add each file separately. But we can also use another command. In this case, with the double dash and the quote all. It will work the same as the previous one. But the same effect we can get typing it simpler with just typing a dot after space and the add command. And this way we will also add to the staging area every file in our workspace, so in our working directory. So let's hit enter. Now let's check our Git status. And now we can see the effect. Our file chapter 2 is now being tracked. It's now in the staging area and will be added to our repository when we do the next commit. If we want unstage this file, if we don't want to add it to the next commit to our repository, we can use this command git restore, and then this file won't be tracked by Git and won't be added to our repository with the next commit. But if we would like to add it to our repository right now, we should do the commit. But we will do something else for now. Let's open this file in the notepad. Let's place it right here. Right here. Let's make some changes to this file. Whatever. Let's save it. Let's clear our console. And let's check the Git status once again. As you can see, we have two pieces of information right now. The first one is that we have a new file, which is chapter 2 txt in our working directory. And then we have an info that this file has been modified since we added it to the staging area. So we added this file in its first state when it was empty. So if we now would do the commit, we would add this file to our repository in the state that it was empty. So if we want to add these changes to the staging area so that we could add this file to our repository in the next commit with this modified state where we have some text in it, we would have to use git add command once again on this file. Or we could discard these changes using git restore command on that file. As I said earlier, we have 4 states of file in Git: untracked, tracked modified, tracked unmodified, and tracked staged. But there's no problem for Git if the file is in 2 different states at once. It may seem strange to you right now, but not forget. When using the git add command, we added the file to the staging area. At the time, this file was empty, and if we would do a commit now, this file will be added to the repository unchanged, not including the changes we made after we added the file to the staging area. Meanwhile, we can still work with this file by modifying it. Git will know this and will inform us about two versions of the same file. As you can see on your monitor, the green file is empty and the red one is modified. Now, if we want this new version of that file to be added to the staging area, all we have to do is put git add chapter 2 txt. Let's hit enter. Let's see our git status once again. And now we can see that our file is updated. Now we don't have two versions of the same file in our workspace and in our staging area, but only one modified updated file. So let's do a commit. And this way, chapter 2 in its newest version will be added to the repository. Let's put our git message to it. Add chapter 2 txt. Let's hit enter. Let's clear our console. And let's place git log to see our newest changes. As we can see, we have our initial commit, our next commit, when we added a chapter 1 txt and changed the introduction txt, and our newest commit, where we added chapter 2 txt to our repository. Now let's clear our console once again. Let's try to see what's in our chapter 1 txt file. We have no response, so that should mean it's empty. Let's close this one for now. Let's see if our chapter 1 is actually empty. We can see it is. So let's make some changes to that file. Let's save it. Now let's check our git status. And now we can see the info that our file has been modified. So as well as with the previous one, we can add those changes to the staging area. So we could add this modified version of this file to the repository with the next commit. Or we can discard these changes just to leave this file in the next commit as it was in the previous one. Now let's see what will happen if we will do a commit without adding these changes to the staging area. Git commit with the message no matter what. Let's hit enter. And now you can see it won't work because we didn't add this modified file to the staging area. So forget, nothing changed in our project because this repository after this commit would be exactly the same as our previous one. Let's check it in our git log. And you can see this commit didn't work. The last commit we have in our project is the one where we added chapter 2 txt to our repository. Now let's clear our console. And let's see a command that we didn't use before, which is git diff. Thanks to this command, we can compare the differences in our files. We can see that there is a new line of text in our file. What we see here is comparing our file from the last commit with what is in our workspace right now. So let's now add this modified file to our staging area. Let's do a commit. With the commit message change chapter 1 txt, which is what we did. Let's hit enter. Let's clear our console. And let's put git log to see the changes. And we can see this commit worked. We saved changes to our chapter 1 txt. And now let's add a new line of text to our chapter 1 txt. Let's save it. Let's clear our console and git bash. And let's once again put our git diff command. And you can see the effect of these changes on your monitor right now. We are able to compare everything. Later, using Visual Studio Code, it will be even easier, as we will have a graphical interface to compare two files. We will clearly see in which line what has changed, and it is much more convenient. But it's good to know that such a thing even exists in Git. Now let's clear our console once again. Let's check our Git status. As you can see, we have modified chapter 1 txt file, but we haven't added to the staging area yet. And now I wanted to show you that Git allows us to skip adding files to the staging area. We can directly transfer our modified file to our repository using commit, skipping the staging area. So to add all tracked modified files in our workspace, also known as a working directory, we can use a special parameter. So let's do it. Git commit and A after dash. A in this case stands for all the tracked files we have modified, even the ones we didn't move to the staging area. Let's go on with our commit. Let's hit enter. Now let's check our git log. We can see all our commits. The newest one is changing the chapter 1, which we did right now. Let's clear our console. Let's check our git status to see if everything is okay. As you can see, we have nothing to commit, so everything is updated. We are getting closer and closer to the theory where it will all become clear to you, because you will be able to compare what is on the slides to what you saw in practice in this project. But before we get into the theory, I'd like to show you deleting and restoring the previous versions of the files.